With the NHL trade deadline just over 2 weeks away, we have a lot of trade targets that are bound to be moved anytime now. And we're going to be talking about some of the top trade targets from forwards, defense, and goalie today. Now, keep in mind, we're not going to be talking about all of them, so make sure to hit the sub button, stick along on this journey, because we're going to be talking about these guys, everybody who may have a possibility of being traded within these next 2 weeks, coming closer to the trade deadline. But like I said, hit that sub button, join us along the journey to the number 1 overall pick. May that be Macklin Celebrini wherever he goes, but we have a lot to discuss, so let's not waste any time. But like I said, we're going to go into the top trade deadline targets. Like I said, we're going to be talking about the main ones. There's still going to be a lot that are going to be moved, a lot that we're not going to be talking about here in this video, but like we're going to be talking about them eventually, just not right here, so stick around to find out what we have to say about those. But first of all, I want to pull up this. It's just the 10 trade targets from Chris Johnson. These are his, and we're going to be talking about 3 of these guys here, and with a sprinkle of a few other people, but we're going to start it off with Jake Guentzel. Jake Guentzel's been this guy who has been the number 1 trade target pretty much for this whole season. As long as the season's been on, he's been the guy that's people are thinking he's going to be traded sooner rather than later, although we had a major setback in this whole predicament here when Jake Guentzel is going to miss up to 4 weeks. Now, this was mid-February due to the injury. Place him on the return beyond the March 8th trade deadline if he needs all of that time to recover. But I think that this is still a perfect opportunity for many players, or many teams, to go after Jake Guentzel. Jake Guentzel was going to go to a team that is playoff bound, are chasing a cup. We've seen the Vegases, we've seen the Edmontons, a lot of these teams that I think are going to make it even without Jake Guentzel. So these teams have a great opportunity to make a trade for him, knowing that they don't need him right away, let him get back to full health, let him heal up, and not rush him back, and bring him into that playoff roster ready to go at 100%. So, Noah, what do you think about Jake Guentzel, and what do you think about some teams that he may go to?
Well, the injury's a little bit, puts a little bit of a, question mark on everything. But I like the New York Rangers. I know it kind of as a sleeper team. We kind of discussed a litto bit off camera, and I think the Rangers could make a run at them. It seems like every year they're constantly in playoff talks, or trying to go for a Stanley Cup and trying to contend, and they just never get there. And now they have, I think it's Blake Wheeler and Philipp Kurashev both gone for the year with injuries. I think they have Jimmy Vesey on their first line left wing, which is not ideal for a Stanley Cup contending team. So I think it makes all that most sense to put him in on the Rangers.
I like the Rangers. That's like you said, we were talking about it off camera, but it's not a team that a lot of people are thinking about immediately when they think about Jake Guentzel. Like you said, they are very injured on that on the offensive side from Blake Wheeler, Philipp Kurashev, and I think that the Rangers, they go to acquire a few guys pretty much every trade deadline to see if they can make that push to the Cup. Jake Guentzel is another guy that I think is a top tier of those acquisitions that they can make. There are a lot of other forwards, I'll pull up those again. You can see some here: Vladimir Tarasenko, Pavel Buchnevich, Frank Vatrano. But Jake Guentzel, he's having a very good season, back to what he's been doing on a pretty consistent basis, and I think that the Rangers would be a good landing spot for him. But that, like you said as well, that injury puts it a little bit of a damper on any imminent trade. A lot of people are going to be questioning whether he'll be fully healthy for this upcoming run towards the playoffs. But I do think it will be a team who don't need him right away, that are capable of letting him sit out and fully get healed up, like you said, the Rangers, Edmonton, Vegas, one of those teams that are already pretty much playoff bound. But, the top forward, he's one of them. We have a lot of defense to talk about as well, and we're going to be talking about 2 from the Calgary Flames here. One, we're going to be talking about Noah Hanifin, a guy who popped up more recently than later. The Calgary Flames are trying to get a deal done with him to make an extension. Turns out it's not going to happen, not going to work out, and now that he is almost guaranteed to get traded by this NHL trade deadline. Noah Hanifin is one that I didn't really see at the start of the season. I'm a huge Noah Hanifin fan. I like the way he plays. I like his style, and I think that he's a very solid defenseman on both sides of the puck. So having a team go after him, there's many teams. One that has been in note for him and Chris Tanev, both of these Calgary defensemen likely to get traded, is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They do have a lot of cap issues, a lot of things that would have to be done to make a trade like this happen. I do think that is possible, but the Maple Leafs, that's one team in my mind that, was going to make this trade happen if they need to make it happen, which seems like they're going on a quick run with Austin Matthews going to be on track for 75 goals. if he's on a hot season like this, you need to stack up this team for this year. Time's running out. I'll just say that. But Noah, what do you think about? We're going to talk about Noah Hanifin as well as Chris Tanev. What do you think about both of these? But let's talk about Noah Hanifin first.
Yeah, well, he has a great name, too. I mean, I thought I'd throw that in there. But, yeah, I like him on Toronto. I mean, I think, they kind of need a defenseman. But I'm going to go in a little bit of a different direction. I think the Tampa Bay Lightning, to be completely honest with you. We've seen that absolutely gruesome injury to Mikhail Sergachev, I think, a couple weeks ago. Awful. I won't play it in my head. But I think, they're going to be, I think he makes $8.5 million, something to that around there. So they're going to have $8.5 million available to spend, before the playoffs. Noah Hanifin on a really, really cheap deal. I think it makes all the sense in the world.
Yeah, both of those guys on that Calgary defense, I think will end up going somewhere, wherever it may be. I think Calgary's trying to, not clean house, but trying to get up a quick change here. Another Calgary guy that we're going to talk about here, we're going to be, touching on a few of these goaltenders here, is Jacob Markstrom. I'll pull up his stats here. He's having, not a bad season. 258 goals against, 914 save percentage. A good save percentage, 2 goals against ratio. But I do think that Jacob Markstrom is a perfect fit, and I know, Noah, me and you both agree with this, for the New Jersey Devils. The New Jersey Devils are right there. We can't deny that. They are right there. Goaltending has been one of their issues for the past few seasons that they just haven't been able to grasp, get a nice hold of, to make this team go the distance. They've had a solid playoff run. They've had some success in the playoffs the past few seasons, but I think a solid goaltender like Jacob Markstrom will be able to put this team over the top. Now, another goalie that, before we go into what your thoughts on Jacob Markstrom, Noah, is Juuse Saros. That's another one who's popped up recently as well from the Nashville Predators. Are they going to be ready to move on from him? The 28-year-old who's been quite surprising the past few seasons, how good he's been. And how underrated he's been. He's kind of been one of those goalies that's under the radar, plays good, but you don't really hear about just because of the name where he's playing. Are they ready to move on to Yaroslav Askarov and really willing to move on from Juuse Saros at this point? Askarov, we're not going to deny that. He's having a phenomenal season in the AHL. With a 204 goals against and a 923 save percentage with 21-6-1 record on the season. He's shown promise. That's no surprise there. Yeah. He's been that guy that Nashville's been hoping for, especially with the 11th overall pick, that they want him to be ready as soon as possible. What seems like the 7-time World Junior veteran in Yaroslav Askarov. I'm excited to see what he can do in the NHL if his time is now. Juuse Saros is another interesting one. And Noah, what do you think about these two? Start off with Jacob Markstrom that we were talking about along with this Calgary theme, but Juuse Saros is also an interesting one here.
I've been so high on Jacob Markstrom since he been on Calgary, and Calgary's been sort of in the run or in the mix, I guess. But yeah, New Jersey is an absolute stellar fit for him. They've kind of been lacking in goaltending. Vitek Vanacek and I think it's Nico Daz, I think, is their 2 goalies. Yep. They're okay. They're all right. I don't think in the playoffs you got to rely on your goaltender, and I think you can't rely on the 2 of them in the playoffs. And I think Jacob Markstrom is the type of guy you can rely on. Juuse Saros, we kind of we kind of talked about this before we started recording. I'm kind of in the mix. I don't know what to really think about Juuse Saros because it's the Predators are tied for a wild card spot right now. Do you keep the same team? Do you try to make a push for the playoffs, or do you trade him away and bring up Askarov or whatever, right? But they brought in guys like Ryan O'Reilly, Luke Schenn. Those guys are older, and it just seems like they kind of want to keep the core. I don't know. I'm at a mixed feelings about it, to be honest with you. I like bringing in Askarov, a younger guy, let him have the net, let him take over. But I also really, really like Juuse Saros. So I don't really know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Juuse Saros isn't really having the best season. Kind of having a pretty average season. But he's shown promise before. That's something that has been pretty consistent with him, the way he's played. Kind of beating the odds with that height at 5'11" is not really what you see in an NHL goalie anymore. But I guess it really depends on what the Nashville Predators are getting in return. I think they're going to be shopping him. I don't think they're going to be pushing a trade. I think they're going to see what they can get. Who's looking for a starting goalie that has proven himself to to be capable of that role and filling it in. So I really think that's the case on Saros. But, like you said about the playoffs for the New Jersey Devils, Akira Schmid last year as well, we seen what happened with him. He came in for the first round, played very good against the Rangers. In the second round, wasn't the same guy. You wouldn't even say it's the same goalie. So it just kind of shows the difference in the playoffs and the regular season. You want a solidified goalie who's proven himself in those types of situations in the regular season, who's proven that they can hold the net for an entire playoff run need be. And I think that the New Jersey Devils, they're there. Like I said, they're right there. And I think a goalie like Jacob Markstrom or even Juuse Saros, I think Markstrom's their number one target, but I think that, Jacob Markstrom is that guy that they want. He will send them to the promised land, I guess you could say. And it is a really interesting option for both of these goaltenders, wherever they may be headed in the trade deadline. But, I do expect moves to come very soon. Like I said, we're just over 2 weeks, or just under 2 weeks, or just over 2 weeks from the NHL trade deadline. So, we may have a repeat of last year. A lot of moves came very early in the trade deadline. We didn't have much on trade deadline day, but, we may see some moves come a lot sooner than we think. So stick along. Hit the sub button, join the channel if you want to check out all of these trades that the NHL will be bringing us over the next few weeks. And make sure to hit the sub button if you just want to join along the journey. Obviously we're posting all kinds of NHL content throughout this season. A lot of Blackhawks content, a lot of NHL content, a lot of breaking news. So hit the sub button if you want to stay up to date. But that's all we got for this video. If you did enjoy, hit the sub button, hit the like as well. But, that's all we got. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.